So the 90th edition of this show, coming in the tough context for a lot of these car makers, the boss of Stellantis talking about a Darwinian period for the industry. So tell us more about this show and what the mood is now.
Yeah, quite tough indeed. But nevertheless, we're very pleased to bring together, most of the OEMs, car companies. We have 50 car companies here with, as you can see, nice stands, a lot of passion, new products, around 50 world/European premieres. So we're organizing a kind of a nice festival, in spite of all this. This came quite, recently in the last couple of weeks. Of course, today is a B2B day. There will be a lot of discussions, press conferences. The leaders are here not only to present their new models, mainly electric cars, electrified cars, but also to discuss, to have discussions also with, local French authorities. And we had the European elections. We're 2-3 weeks away from the US elections, and I think the CEOs would like to also, have these speaking opportunities on more corporate political issues as well.
So we see a lot of French car makers being here, but a lot of the other traditional European car makers are not coming to these shows anymore often. But the ones that are coming is a lot of the Chinese automakers. Is that really just reflective of what's happening overall in the autos market?
Well, the Europeans are here. Most of them are here. So that's, we have a market representation of around 75%. So this is very positive. We do have Chinese OEMs. We have 9, to be precise. We had 9 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had around 20 car brands, so that was more or less 50%. Now we still have 9 over 50, so it's less than 20%. Yeah, they're coming to Europe.
They're coming in force.
I mean, when you look at registrations, it's still very low today, but they're coming, and some of them very seriously. When they start attacking the French and German markets, it means that, in the end they will, produce in Europe sooner or later.
And precisely, the latest news, of course, is the tariffs that were announced just a few days ago by the EU Commission, up to 45% some of those Chinese imports. Is that useful, or is it counterproductive in terms of them producing in Europe, so creating jobs, in terms of going towards the net zero targets? Is it starting a tit-for-tat trade war? What's your view on this kind of tariff?
Well, I don't want to comment too much on that because we're, the show organizers. I would say it's a direct consequence of, government support, subsidies, and to try to bring things on a more even basis. As you know, in the US, they went directly to 100%. Yeah.
And in terms of prices, there's a real issue of the shift towards EVs has been much smaller than expected because they are very expensive, those EV cars. Where do you see the issue might be? How can things get better so people want to buy those EVs?
Yeah, you're totally right. Simple answer, it has to be the same price, for an EV versus a combustion engine car, given that it's, the same size. That's very important. The gap is much smaller today with Chinese OEMs. For Europeans and Americans, it's still very significant. So we need to have this kind of parity. I mean, consumers are ready to be more green, but not at any cost. So I think that's the really key point.
But the price is an issue, and the infrastructure is also an issue. Do you hear from a lot of the people coming to the
salon? I would be more positive on the infrastructure. If you take the example of France, we have 150,000 charging points, public, within 47,000 stations. That's not too bad. And just to give you a reference, we have 11,000 gas stations. So, it's not too bad.